Hey there, it's Walt. So, for as long as I can remember, I have struggled with the change of the seasons as the light begins to fall, as it gets darker earlier and lighter later. I find myself descending into darkness myself. And it was only after many years that I realized that there was a name for it, seasonal affective disorder. And so maybe about a decade ago, I became much more proactive about researching it, understanding it, and then doing something about it. And I'm not always terribly good at remembering that the change of the seasons needs to be managed for me. Yesterday, I went out the door at 7 o'clock to run in the morning, and it was pitch black, and it was spitting rain, and it was cold and miserable, and it wasn't terribly fun to start. And of course, the whole running discussion is another conversation. We have this rule: we don't ask if we feel like running, because who really feels like running at 7 in the morning in the dark and spitting rain and cold? But I came back from that run and I realized that I had forgotten again about the change in the seasons. I had forgotten that I need to manage that a whole lot better. And the things that I do to manage it better are, number one, to be aware of it. Number two, to be mindful about my self-care. And that means about getting the exercise I need, about getting outside as much as possible, getting as much daylight as I possibly can. It also means being more mindful about the environment inside my house. For years, when I was raising my boys, I used to install full spectrum daylight lamps over the kitchen sink. Now I have a full spectrum light that I sit under to journal in the morning that adds that full spectrum element. I need to be more mindful about my meditation practices and my journaling practices. I need to be more mindful about supplements. I'll often supplement vitamin D this time of year because the vitamin D levels will drop off. And when I'm mindful of all of this, I end up being a lot more focused and resourceful. Last year, I let all of this go way too long. I was thinking about recording this video last year only when I got to December. And I had gotten way behind the curve at that point in time. And it was much more challenging for me to pull out of the funk that I had found myself in. And I did something at that point in time that I'd never done before. I really like a nice glass of rich red wine. I love an Argentine Malbec. I realized that the depressive quality of the alcohol was getting to me. And so in that moment of desperation to get out of the funk, I cut out the drinking until the spring equinox. And I've right from the get-go this fall decided that during these dark months, I'm not going to do my very favorite red wine until we get beyond the darkness. And so I'm very mindful about managing this time of year because the work I do is really important to me. And I want to show up always powerfully and resourcefully. And what that means is that I've really got to be much more intentional about the whole self-care at this time of year. So I'm making this video this week as a reminder to me. Some of you may find that the changes in the year don't impact you at all. But I think, as we move into latter October and into November and toward the vortex of the holidays, it's easy to lose touch with how we're feeling. and then to get into a funk. Some people will call it a holiday funk. And I think it's easy to lose touch with what we're experiencing moment to moment. And the truth is, we all have important work to do in the world. We want to show up powerfully and resourcefully to do that work we're meant to do. And so I invite you to think about, is this a time of year that I really need to double down and become even more focused on the things that I need to do for me that will allow me to be more resourceful in my work. So make it a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. Get outside. Take good care of yourself. Talk soon.